Training material. Workshop on cost and financing of education. Ibadan, 9 to 20 July 1979. Community contribution to education. By Lulsegged, Alamea Lulsegged, UNESCO Specialist. Educational Institutions Administration, Department of Educational Management, University of Ibadan, Ibadan. University of Ibadan, Department of Educational Management, in collaboration with International Institute for Educational Planning, UNESCO, Paris. Introduction. Education is a basic need of each individual member of a society. There is little dispute regarding the significant role that education must play in the overall development of a society. Through education, technological progress, social, economic, and political advancement of the individual and of society itself in general is assured. Education today is neither a luxury nor a privilege, but a birthright of every individual. Formal education is society's instrument for creating the social base that can support and realize developmental aims. It creates values, attitudes, and motivations, as well as skills necessary to materialize modern national objectives. Hunger, disease, and ignorance must be fought by health clinics and immunization centers. Increased agricultural production, which is largely dependent on new irrigation and improved farming methods and basic scientific and technological knowledge. Consequently, universalization of educational opportunities is essential for widespread and broadly based social developments. Throughout the Third World, one may observe the eagerness with which communities accept and support education. Oh, Jama Dahir's declaration seems as fresh as if one hears it now as it is blaring through a loudspeaker at a village square. We will use every nook and corner as a school. We will conduct classes under shady trees, in front of the nomad tents, and beside watering wells. Essential concepts. Community interest, support, and contribution to education is the subject of our discussion this morning. At the outset, therefore, examination of community contribution in terms of the following subtopics is necessary. 1. Knowledge and understanding of what the schools are trying to do and what their problems are. 2. Support. The support the community is prepared to give upon understanding the objectives of the schools and the constraints in fulfilling the objectives. 3. Contribution. Cognizant of the objectives of the schools, aware of the constraining problems in fulfilling their objectives, and fully prepared to aid the schools in their endeavor. The community will contribute in one or more ways of the following. A. Financial or in-kind contributions. B. Contributions in resourcefulness. A. Human and other related resources. B. Technical and skill resource. C. Recent development in community contributing. D. Contributions by alumni. 1. Knowledge and understanding. The school is an open system which has a fundamental purpose that of serving the community in which it is situated. The following 3 categories of the school functions play a very significant role in degree of interest, extent of support, and amount of contribution communities offer to education. As given below, they want their children to be education, and to facilitate this process, they want to understand what problems schools face. And as adults, they may also want some kind of program in adult education extended to them. 1. Schools educate the children and youth of the community to prepare them for their future life. 2. Schools may also take as a matter of priority to educate the adults of the community to fit into the modern, changing world to share in the benefits of improved way of life. 3. Schools should keep the community well informed about what is going on in the classrooms and outside them, so that they support the educational programs with their positive contribution. For our purpose of discussion, this morning, it will be sufficient to deal with the 3rd category, that of keeping the community well informed. One of the most pronounced trends in educational management today is the expansion and improvement of relationships between the school and its personnel, and between the school and its community. Although communities have been traditionally responsible for the education of their young, organized, institutionalized, centrally planned, financed, and administered education is a recent phenomenon, particularly in Africa. These central planning, organization, and administration of education and the professionalization of the educations gradually made communities in some parts of the world shy away from being involved in the schoolwork, since most parents did not know what the schools are doing anyway. This and other factors made it necessary to have an organized system of developing and enhancing a good relationship between the school and the community. Besides the desire of educators to bring the communities back to their age-old responsibilities, the following are some of the major factors for reviving a closer relationship between the school and the community. 1. Increased costs. Soaring enrollments required a large amount of additional school housing, a great number of teachers, educational, and other facilities. Financing indirectly through tax and directly by contributions, therefore, need understanding of the problems by the community to support the school's programs. 2. Changes in the curriculum offerings. The need for better school-community relations is more pronounced today because understanding the changes and what the schools are trying to do must be supported by parents. Parents are often confused by the changes, and educators, through supplying adequate information, may erase the doubts. 3. Criticism of schools. The criticism in education has been to a large extent responsible for better public relations between the community and the schools. As a consequence of the above, educators are concerned. Expansion and improvement of relationships between the school and its personnel and between the school and its community has been greatly pronounced. Morfitt, Johns, and Reller suggest what should be done in a nutshell. Multidirectional communication is essential and must be both the basis of the program and one of its purposes. Two-way communication is mentioned frequently. It is necessary, but not likely to be effective unless accompanied by communication within the school staff and within various other agencies. In light of the above quotation, let us examine what avenues are open to the school to promote good public relations. 1. The students. The students are the best public relations people of the schools. Their number and their influence over their parents can diffuse acceptable information throughout the community in the shortest time possible. Consequently, schools must do all they can to acquaint the students with what the schools are trying to do and to involve them in decision-making about the school activities and improve the students' health, guidance, and other services. 2. Publications. This include press release, school news, yearbooks, flyers to parents, etc. 3. Face-to-face. It has always been realized that a face-to-face conference is much more effective than other types of communication. Educators, therefore, must try to develop the habit of making time to see parents, which will be an asset in developing good personal relationships and which can be capitalized on for the benefits of the school and its programs. For educators in the community, teaching or non-teaching personnel of the schools are part and parcel of the community, and their contacts in the social, business, religious, etc. have potential value in developing and improving public relations. As a result, all members of staff should be kept informed about changes in the school, new developments in the programs, and the problems of the school. 2. Support. Problems and issues of schools cannot always be resolved by educators, and where a problem has an answer by educators, the answer must win acceptance by the community, and which might be difficult. The best procedure may be to place the problem before the community for the consideration and formulations of tentative solutions. This through the use of a large and potentially unexploited personnel resources will lead to an efficient and sound solutions and early effective implementation. There are several ways in which the community may support the programs of the school and try to find solutions to its problems. One of these ways is citizens' committees. Citizens' committees may be of two different kinds based on the source of the initiative: a requested, sponsored, and encouraged by the school itself, and be inspired by conditions within the community or by some outside influence. Based on the attitude of the school, administrator citizens' committees can be either constructive or destructive. Consequently, the school administrator must be willing, ready, and prepared to work alongside the citizens' committee to define their limit of authority and to bring their efforts to fruition. Functionally, citizens' committees are: A. Recommending bodies. B. Responsible to the principal or the governing board of education of the school. C. set up to serve a specific purpose only. D. Disbanded at the completion of its work, or asked to stay in an inactive status pending the outcome of its proposals. In setting up and maintaining the same member of citizens' committees over a long period of time, or permanently, caution must be taken sought that they themselves would not emerge as one of the problems of the school, for instance, developing themselves into pressure groups. Once they reach this stage, they begin to be dissatisfied with their status as recommending bodies. Similarly, they will begin to resent school officials or others if their recommendations are not accepted. Consequently, a difficult situation may be created which often destroys the original effectiveness of the committee. The areas in which citizens' committees may be interested in to get involved are A. Curriculum enrichment, B. Budget and finance, C. Professional personnel, D. Pupil personnel services, E. Youth programs, F. Community adult education, G. Public relations, H. Community resources. Selection of the members should be on the basis of representation of the various different groups of the community. As regards a tenure of office, a temporary citizens' committees organized to undertake a project and disbanded when they have submitted their recommendations is preferable than a permanent one. Such a permanent committee may become too involved in the project, and pressure group for pet ideas may evolve from the group. Similarly, the use of fresh, potentially different citizens become difficult as members become permanent. 3. Contribution. Traditionally, schools were organized, financed, and administered and supervised by the community. Early American education is a classic example of this. Here in Africa, the Ethiopian Church was responsible for education through the support and contribution of the communities for over 17 centuries. In Nigeria, when the missionaries came to start schools, they did not have enough capital to build churches and classrooms to impart education. They had to depend on the community who contributed in cash, in kind, and in skill to raise the infrastructures, and who continued to contribute for the education of the children. After the turn of this century, as the positive value and utility of education was deep-rooted, the Nigerian society became ever more thirsty for education for its young. Most of the primary schools provided were along the main roads, too far for the children of the interior villages to travel to and return. As a result, children were often left with relatives and friends who lived near the school. There were also those who walked for miles a day to attend school and return home. Consequently, village communities were able to organize themselves to build furnished classrooms to bring the schools closer to their children so that the young people would enjoy the luxury of the family life while learning. This idea became so prevalent throughout the old western and eastern regions that it was simply taken as a matter of fact up to the present time. Community contribution significantly contributed to the effective utilization of a universal primary education. Community interest in education did not stop at the primary school. In earlier days, outstanding students completing primary schools were sent abroad for the second cycle education. These students were completely financed by the community contribution. However, as the feeder primary schools justified the cause, and as the students abroad returned to the villages to teach, the communities were organized to build secondary schools. Igbo Ellerin Grammar School, 36 kilometers from Ibadan, Katayi Grammar School, Oyedeji Grammar School, Abeokuta Grammar School, Ijibuode Grammar School, Ibadan Grammar School, and Elisha Grammar School are but a few examples of such community contribution to education. Elsewhere in Africa, we have excellent example of community self-help in education. The Kenyan Harambee movement, pulling together. Besides its multifaceted projects, its importance is indicated in its marked emphasis on secondary education. In Ethiopia, tens of thousands of classrooms were made possible, not only through independent contribution by communities, it was but also through a dollar-to-dollar matching effected by the cooperative venture between the communities and SIDA, the Swedish International Development Agency. A more recent development, catching the attention of the communities throughout Ethiopia, is the reintroduction of the traditional method of self-help in education. Communities were organized to build and furnish schools from local materials and labor at no cost to the government. Similarly, The same communities continue to pay the teachers partially in cash and partially in kind, completely relying on their own resources to educate not only their children, but also themselves. Obviously, this was taken as one of the sure ways of spreading basic education. There are many more examples of innovative and unique systems of community support and contribution, but I would like my colleagues here, representing various parts of Africa, to tell us about the experiences in their countries. Community support and contribution to education in Africa so far has consisted largely of provision of classroom, class furnitures, etc. This was mainly due to the following factors. 1. Parents were either ignorant of what is going on in the school, or educators conveniently shielded them from involvement in any other way beyond contributions in cash or in kind. 2. Though they may understand something of how schools run, parents felt professional problems should be left to be handled by the educators at the schools. 3. The rigidity of the curriculum did not allow instructional enrichment through various community resources, particularly human. One can go on with such a listing to point out the limiting factors of community involvement. Nevertheless, what is important here is not the limitations of the past, as much as the newly emerging awareness of the need for expanded and improved community involvement in the school's activities to give multi-directional, enriched contributions in the future. What are some of these ways in which communities may be involved? This paper will give a few suggestions as a starting point, and the participants are expected to participate in the discussion by delving into their professional experiences. Financial or in-kind contribution. This has been the traditional and common type of community support and contribution to education. It consists of 1. Cash contributions to build classroom and or furnish schools. 2. Donation of buildings for school use. 3. Donation of land. 4. Donation of building materials. In such cases, the involvement of the community simply stops after cash contribution or donation in kind. Further involvement may usually come only if additional contribution is needed. This system has been responsible for expansion of elementary education in the rural areas in many parts of the world to a great extent, and secondary education to a lesser extent. Contribution in resourcefulness. Communities have a great deal of untapped potential resourcefulness that may hold solutions to many of the school's problems. Effective communication and active leadership are the necessary tools for the exploitation of these rich and varied community facilities in resourcefulness. Let us examine examples of these facilities. A. Human and other related resources. As pointed out earlier, if educators open up their doors by inviting the community to share in the running of the schools, apparent constraints and problems may disappear. Sets of solutions and plans will emerge from community-school interaction. Similarly, implementation of solutions will be speeded up since additional drive for community support is not needed. In connection with these, we have already discussed the uses of Citizens Committee. However, advantages of these committees are given below. 1. They give services that the school might otherwise not be able to afford. 2. They open up a two-way communication between the school and the community. 3. Schools' professional personnel may benefit from exposure to the philosophies and objectives of the community. 4. They will bring with them fresh approaches to the school program and to the community problems. 5. They cultivate a cooperative approach by the community and the school's personnel for the education of the young. Again, caution must be exercised so that some of disadvantages earlier mentioned may not outweigh and destroy the advantage of such a citizens committee. Another significant community contribution to the education of the young in human resources is the class mothers. These are mothers who have children in the school classrooms and who are able and willing to give their time to help the teachers. One can imagine the advantage which can be derived from such a service in crowded classroom situation where the teacher-pupil ratio is more than double the normal case in many African schools. The aid of the mother is even more accentuated if she is a housewife who is trained as a teacher and is willing to give a few hours a week of her time to the service of the school. Mothers may be organized through the Parent-Teacher Association, PTA, or independently through the initiative of the teachers themselves. PTA about which this discussion assumes to be familiar to all, will gain a great deal of understanding for necessary support of the school's program if the mothers are organized through its efforts. The same class mothers may serve as a positive link between the parents and the teachers, supplying educators with information regarding interests of parents and interpreting the needs of the communities and vice versa. The multifarious ways in which mothers can be helpful to schools are given below. 1. Aiding the teachers in routine class management during teaching. 2. Helping in the supervision of children at games, during the break time, in the field, etc. 3. Participating in the organization, preparation, and management of activities on annual school days and other festive occasions. 4. Aiding teachers on field trips by arranging for transport and supervision of the pupils. 5. Aiding at the school clinic. 6. Preparing under the teacher's guidance mark sheets and other teaching materials. 7. Helping in the organization and presentation of drama, musical show, art festival, etc. In addition to class mothers, there are many different kinds of people who provide rich resources to the instructional program. Depending on the type of skill, craft, trade, and profession, teachers may exploit the community human resources either by inviting them to the classroom or by taking students to their place of practice. Lawyers, doctors, dentists, engineers, farmers, publishers, cattle breeders, carvers, carpenters, mechanics, weavers, etc. are resource people in the community. In a secondary school, for instance, a lawyer as class guest can give students unlimited expert discussion on legal matters for business law. Similarly, medical doctors can open up a good opportunity to discuss about diseases and their possible prevention and treatment and good health habits. A farmer may explain about plants, when to plant them, how to take care of them, and the uses of fertilizers. A poultry breeder may give a detailed methods of producing eggs and chicken. Who knows how many students may take the discussion seriously in order to develop enough interest to start a kitchen gradient and poultry breeding after school hours, thus taking education more meaningfully and productively. All around the school, 3 are rich resource people to make instruction meaningful. The local storekeeper, the local farmer, firemen, policemen, the local post officer can offer a good deal of useful education to the young, who can give a better understanding to the learner about the machinery of local, state, and national government better than government officials. Geography, history, civics, and citizenship will be more vivid if people who have traveled extensively, people who have lived in other countries, etc., are invited to share their experiences with the young learners. Musicians, artists, and dramatists will open up the other dimension of human life to the students. Consequently, community contribution is varied, rich, meaningful, and utilitarian only if the schools are ready to grab the opportunities. They are there within the community waiting. Furthermore, local places of resource like farms, stores, dairy farms, municipal agencies, printing presses, newspaper plants, publishing firms, research laboratories, cottage industries, and industrial plants, museums, botanical and zoological gardens offer fantastic opportunities as instructional resource centers. Such education adds to the meaningfulness of the instruction of the youth, thus enhancing the preparation of children to become productive adults. Technical and other skill resources. Additional classrooms, more toilet facilities, building playgrounds, partially or totally fencing the school may require planning, designing, and constructing, which may be costly. Often such projects are postponed from year to year owing to governmental financial constraint. If, however, the problem is presented to the community and the skilled members of the community are consulted, solutions may usually be around the corner. Needed technical services may be obtained at no cost to the school. Other costs may be borne by the community. Recent developments in community contribution to education. A beautiful schoolhouse in a village is useless unless there are qualified teachers to teach in it. Owing to the absence of staff quarters and other amenities such as transport, electricity, and water, many teachers shy away from service in the villages. Consequently, the new development in the northern states of Nigeria today is for the community to build low-cost houses for the teaching staff, which is given free of rent. Thus, they're making it possible to attract and keep professionally trained and qualified teachers for the education of their children. This is an innovation which, besides other things, should spread like a wildfire to other parts of Nigeria, in particular in Africa in general. Another feature of contribution to education in recent years, particularly in the southern states of Nigeria, is the contribution by alumni of some secondary schools. The apparent falling of standards of their alma maters have been a burning concern, so much so that they have begun to build up their mother institutions, improving the libraries and replenishing them with newer and up-to-date books, equipping the laboratories, persuading excellent teachers to remain in the school, etc. The alumni have just begun showing greater interest in the actual program of their alma maters, and it is hoped they would continue the good work setting examples to others elsewhere. Summary. We have briefly touched on the following points. Community support and contributions to education are not entirely innovations. Traditionally, in fact, education was commonly understood as the responsibility of the community. Community support and contribution to education was largely limited to the provision of new or additional infrastructure. In terms of potential, there is a whole array of new and more meaningful forms of community contributions awaiting exploitation. A. Contributions in resourcefulness, human or otherwise. B. Technical and skill resources. C. Contribution by alumni. Conclusion. This paper is presented to you as a starting point for discussion. It is not by any means complete. However, it is hoped that you will develop your own programs of action reading community support and participation, for without them education of the children will be lacking. Your initiative to inspire parents and to awaken them to the multitude of ways of contributing to the success of schools and to the education of their children is fundamental. Bibliography. A.H.M. Organization and Financing of Self-Help Education in Kenya. IIE/UNESCO. Paris 1973. Ayandele, E. The Missionary Impact on Modern Nigeria, Longman, Green & Co. Le Re. Western Printing Services Limited, Bristol 1966. Dehir O. Statistics and Publications of Current Educational Reforms and Innovations in Africa. In Innovations in African Education P. Douglas H. Trends and Issues in Secondary Education, the Center for Applied Research in Education, Inc. Washington, D. 1962. Godfrey M. and Mutiso G. Economics, Politics of Education. Kenya's Harambee Institute of Technology. In the Institute of Development Studies Bulletin Volume, April 6, 1976. University of Sussex, Falmer, England. Lowe J. Grant N. and Williams, T. Education and Nation Building in the Third World, Onabonge Press and Book Industries, NIG. Limited, Ibadan, 1973. Lulsegged, A Descriptive Analysis of the Administration of Education in Transition in Ethiopia, a doctoral dissertation, University of Southern California, Los Angeles, 1969. Morfitt, E. Johnsar, and Reller, T. Educational Organization and Administration, Concepts, Practices, and Issues, Prentice Hall, Inc. Englewood Cliffs, N. 1974. Olagunju, U. Community Development in the Northern States, Retrospect and Prospect, in the Nigerian Journal of Public Affairs, Institute of Administration, A. Zaria, Volume 3, No. 2 May 1973, pages 68 to 73. Sinclair M. Education, Relevance, and the Community. A paper for a seminar on education and the community in Africa, 18 to 20 June 1976, University of Edinburgh. Department of Education and Science, School and Community. The Shared Use of Schools in a Study of School Buildings, p. 72 to 73. UNESCO, Education in Africa in the Light of the Lagos Conference, 1976, UNESCO, Paris. UNESCO, Mobilization of Domestic Resources for Formal and Non-Formal Education. Seminar for National Specialists and UNESCO Experts in Educational Planning, 19 to 23 June 1978, UNESCO, Paris. The writer is pleased to acknowledge Dr. Cumming UNESCO Specialist, Mr. Sofumwa, Assistant Director of the Institute of Education, University of Ibadan, and Reverend D. Adekla of Oyo State Ministry of Education, Ibadan, for providing him with some valuable information on the community contribution to education.